I'm going to try a little different style of videos for you guys. Instead of breaking my projects up into like you know, part 1, part 2, I'm gonna try to cram a project into one video from start to finish. That way you guys get the whole video in one shot. Hopefully you guys can see how to do all this with limited fabrication tools, because let's be honest, I'm not a huge fabricator. I know how to fabricate some stuff, but I'm just not a huge, I just don't have a lot of tools yet for fabricating. So without further ado, let's go. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to TeeDogCustoms, to another video. I've been very hesitant, or I was very hesitant to post this video because, well, I'm not very proud of my work that I did, and I'm gonna take a little sneak peek under here. Look right in here, we can see it's tied in by 2 spots, but it's just all kinds of janky, bad. I believe it's the trans mount is actually flexing. So what I've got here is I've had these bushings. I borrowed, well, I shouldn't say borrow. I'm going to use this tubing here from my neighbor actually across the way. Thanks for that. Go check out his YouTube channel because he actually has one. It's Virginia is for low riders. He does a lot of stuff on there, not just low riding stuff, but very informative, and he goes through everything in great detail, kind of like I'm gonna do today. So this is kind of the deal here. You can see this. I'm going to cut this here, then we will have the centerpiece for our transmission mount, and it is a bushing style. Plenty beefy, strong enough. So that's the plan. We're gonna start by cutting these. I need 2 of these, then we'll clean them up, and we're actually going to make tabs out of this steel right here. So we're gonna make tabs and do the whole thing from scratch. I could have got on Amazon and bought tabs, but I was like, shoot, let's go ahead and make some tabs. And I do not have a bandsaw or anything, which bandsaws are super nice for cutting this kind of steel, so it's all going to be done by hand. Now I have one of these Diablo blades. The only problem is that they did not have one in a 10-inch blade, which is what this chop saw uses. So I kind of put my circular saw Diablo metal cutting blade on here, and I'm going to space it up to where I should be able to cut through some tubing and kind of jerry rig some stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot how well that Diablo blade cuts and how quiet it is. Jeez, way to go. We got both of our, I guess, bushing mounts. I'm going to run tabs, make some tabs, probably out of this material right here. So I'll need like 4 tabs. And I'll show you guys how I'm going to make tabs, and I'll show you my process. But my neighbor, like I mentioned earlier, at Virginia is for Low Riders, he put out a video not too long ago if I can find it, I will link it right up somewhere up here. And that is very good for how to. He's a much better fabricator than I am, hands down. So I learned some tricks from him. So go ahead, check out that video because he's really good at that sort of stuff. Let me get the whiteboard out and I will show you guys in detail exactly what we're doing. So we've got the frame rails here. We've got the tires here. All right. We've got the axle here. Axle there. What we're going to be doing is we've got the engine and trans, let's say right here. And then we've got our drive shaft running back to the we got our drive shaft running back to the rear hub there, axle. So the plan is to get rid of this weird contraption of things and probably X brace back here, something like that. That is not going to be in this video, but that is a future mod that I will be doing. But that's not in this video. The video that I'm going to be doing now is putting tabs off of the frame like this. Alright, so welding 2 tabs that will bolt onto here. So we'll have the 2 tabs on the outside here. And then we will notch out with a tube notcher and weld our, weld a thick tube that's going to be running straight here, but we're going to have to angle it because if this is the transfer case right here, we have a drive shaft running to the front pumpkin up here. So this indicates a drive shaft going to the front of the Jeep. So the drive shaft is going to get in the way. So we're going to build these tabs and then we're going to bend a piece of tubing down and then bend it over. And then once we put that little bend in there, then we can make a mount, a mount that will weld to the tubing to attach to the transmission. It will be a much stabler, a much just better design, getting rid of this because there's so much flex. Ooh. There's so much flex in this one. It's just not designed right. I rushed it together just to get it to where I could drive it. But it is not designed right. So we're going to get rid of that. So the first line of business is we're going to head over to my plasma table and we'll cut out the tabs right here. So as you can see, we are at my plasma table here, and really the place to start is we are going to find the point at which we want the tab. So I want the tab to fill out around this bushing. You know, you want your tab to cover. So I'm going to find the center here, and then we will draw a circle, and then I will be able to use a straight edge to figure out the angle that I want and so forth, and it'll be very easy. Alright, so this is kind of what we're looking at. A tab that's about this long right here. And there will be in the center of this hole, there will be a hole for a bolt. And we will have a tab. Because it's so humid out, every time I put the goggles on, I fog up. So I'm going 100% face shield today. Voila! Just like that, we have ourselves one tab. And it is hot, so I should probably cool it down. But, ooh, as you can see, that tab works perfect. Trace out some more of these. Should be able to do it with less waste now that I know exactly the shape I want. I can just kind of trace it out like that. So there's kind of it. I'll just kind of cut these out. Probably cut lines straight like this, then like this, and then, you know, just kind of finagle it out. I won't record this because I already showed you guys me making this one tab. There's a couple ways you could do this. You could either find the center, draw a line here, find the center, and draw a line there. And then where they cross is the center piece. I'm going to use a little different method. I'm going to pop this bushing on here and then circle out the inside and then drop a dot right in the center of that, and that's where I'll put my punch to start my pilot hole for the drill bit. Alright, so the place to start is punching it. So you'll stick your punch right in the hole, give it a nice love tap like that. You'll get the best result if you just put it on the dot, give it a good solid hit once, and don't keep going back trying to get it better, because your punch could wobble around with each hit. And so just make sure you get it once nice and firm. That will be plenty. If I had a drill press, I would put these all together. I would drill press them down so they all would come out perfectly lined up. But I don't have a drill press, and I'm not going to do it by hand all, you know, together. So I'm going to do them one at a time. But yeah, that's just, I'm hoping that you guys can realize that you don't have to have all the fancy fabrication tools to you know, get out and do your projects, have some fun, step out. You don't have to have a bandsaw, you don't have to have a torch, you don't have to have all these fancy CNC machines. You know, you can get by. This is how I've always done it, and you know, you can get by with doing stuff like this. It may not be the best option, but it will work, I promise you. One of my favorite drill bits is a step bit. So we've got the tabs all drilled out. I'm just gonna scuff them up. Right like that. Now we're going to just sand them down and get rid of all this buildup, get them nice and ready for welding. I think for tonight, that's where I'm going to wrap things up. Day 2 on the transmission mount. I'm getting ready to back the Jeep in here. This is what we were left off with. I made these last night, and I went ahead, went to Hobo Freight and got me a tube notcher. Pretty much, I'll show exactly what that tube notcher does. I want to show you exactly what I just did. This is the machine. I have it just gripped in my vise. You hook a drill to this end, and you know, then you work your way through, all the way through the pipe you're trying to cut. Now, the purpose of this is a test piece. It's a piece of pretty much like pot piping. It's not DOM or anything that you would want to use for suspension. This was strictly a test piece. Now, you'll want to clean up, depending on what size piping you're using, you'll want to clean up some of these, like kind of cut this off here. But this is kind of the idea. These will be welded to the frame of the Jeep, and then we'll take our freshly notched piping and stick it in like this. However, it's orientated with a slight little bend in it. Weld it up like that, and that will give a nice, strong, secure fit. But like I said, you'll probably want to cut this or sand this down a little bit because that, you know, is super thin. You don't want to weld to this thin spot. You want to weld to where it's thick. So just grind it back to where it's nice and thick, and then throw it in. This is by far probably one of my favorite sander tools out there. It can really save your bacon if you're working in tight spots. Like, it's great for working on frame rails because a lot of times you've got stuff to work around. So using it to, you know, grind off rust when you're about to weld is really nice. Alright guys, so this is the piece of tubing I'm going to be using. I'm going to be bending it. Hopefully I can get a little bend out of this. Man, I've done these. I've tried to do these with an angle grinder by hand before, and it just doesn't work. This was like $57 or something, the notcher at Harbor Freight. Just get that, and I mean, your joints, everything will be flush, and you'll get a much better weld too, with everything being so dang tight like that. It is officially day number 3 on this build. This is the part that I have hated to show, but it kind of has to happen. So I welded all this stuff up. I'm not proud of it at all. There's 2 points of you know, bracing, I guess, but you can see it's just all janky, welded scraps, and it's like that the whole way over. We got the brace off. You can just see how just janky this whole setup is. I'm very embarrassed about this, to be honest. That's why I didn't really show much of this, but I figure that's what real, just part of, you know, being real with you guys is showing you guys this awful contraption. Because we have bushings here, we do not need the motor mount, which is a lot more flexible. So I'm trying to eliminate as much flex as possible without, you know, you would never want to frame it, connect it solid to your axle. In this kind of situation, you would just vibrate everything so bad. So the goal is to use these bushings as motor mounts to soak up some vibration, but they will move much less than the stock motor mount or trans mount that came on there. You can see the difference. This is what was on there. It's actually very soft and it vibrates a lot. So I actually think it's separated in one spot over here. So I'm not convinced that this is actually bad, but it's a lot softer, and we're gonna go with 2 of these to replace it. This is our blank canvas here. What I'm thinking is running the mount here and then having an angle in it and run it up under this possibly. Actually, yes, I will have to run it under and then figure out some way to be able to take these bolts out, because I will need to be able to remove this cross section. So I'll run the bar under and then probably like box it in, and I may remove this altogether, start fresh, because I'm gonna need to, like I said, be able to remove this, and if this lip is like this, I won't be able to reach the bolts. But we'll go from there, then pretty much tie it in the same way. We just have to make sure that we clear the front drive shaft. That's the main reason. But because we're getting rid of the motor mount, we will be able to suck the belly up a little higher, so that will be really nice. So I think I'm going to use this angle iron here, a piece of it. Should make a good base to start with. Right here. Alright, so I'm going to give this a cut right here, and then we can worry about getting the holes right where we need them. Alright, so we got our 1/4 inch plate that I'm going to use. Now, there's a couple different ways you could probably do this to find the proper holes. Because the bracket that was on there before was cut up, this was the bracket that was on there. So typically you would be able to like go off of the bracket and just like trace the holes. However, I can't do that because of that. So what I'm gonna do is I like to use anti-seize, run the bolts in, then dab on the center of the nut, dab some anti-seize, hold this up where I want it, and then push it up. And the anti-seize will leave a nice little mark. Then you can punch out your hole for your starter bit and then drill it out. I only have one GoPro, so every time I get up and show you guys something here, I have to go disconnect it from the tripod, hook it onto my small tripod, and throw it back under the Jeep. So I just wanted, you know, if you could give me a thumbs up in this video, that will help me with the algorithm. algorithm. And then, you know, if you're not subscribed, please think about subscribing. I'm just trying to get more traffic on my channel, and giving me a thumbs up and all that sort of stuff will help tremendously to do that. So this video is taking 3-4 times as long as it typically would, just for that reason of me having to video this. But hopefully you'll find it interesting and informative. Alright, so we're gonna get under here, figure out where we want it. And there we have it, folks. I already drilled out the holes. They fit right in there. Let's see how off we were, or if we're right on the money. Here we go. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I've got the AC on in the garage, but this is kind of what I came up with, and I'm gonna explain it. These are the mounts, the tabs coming off of the frame on either side. Here's our bushings right here, and then this will be bent tubing that's going to run across here. We've got our plate that is bolted in. That's what these are, bolts holding it to the transfer case, or not the transfer case, but the tail shaft of the transmission. Run tabs down from the plate that's on the end of the tail shaft, and then notch with a tubing notcher on either side. Weld those in, weld them inside and out to the plate, and then I'm going to run a backing plate on the other side on the back there. And that will allow me to have access through the bolts this way. And then I'll probably run like some triangle gussets on either side, just to gusset it. But I think that design right there will be plenty fine, strong for what we're doing here. Usually it's safety last, but today it's safety first. So I got this shield for when I sand. I almost forgot to video this because I was just in the zone. I did get the other mount tacked up, and now I'm in the process of bending this piece of crossmember piping. Ideally, you would have a a hydraulic pipe bender, as far as like an electric or something, or air driven one. However, but the whole purpose of this build series on this crossmember is to do things that you can do yourself, and you don't have to have like the most expensive tools out there or best tools out there for the job. So this is literally a Harbor Freight pipe bender. Okay, we're getting very, very close. If you can see this bend here, like we're getting very close. If it wasn't for this exhaust, I could probably make this work. All right, that's what we're looking. So we're actually looking pretty good on this side. It's gonna give us a little more clearance with cutting this, more clearance with the exhaust. And now what I'm gonna do is, this is way too long and I can't even hold it close up there. So I think I'm just gonna cut it straight across, somewhere about right in here. Give me, I know it's kind of wasteful, but it's not really, because this is just kind of how I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna cut it about right here. That way it's still long and I can see exactly if I need to put more bend in it. So if we look at this, it's pretty insane. By the time I C-notch this, or tube notch it, it's going to be about perfect. So I think at this point I'm gonna run a notch in that, and yeah, we'll see how this all you know, lays out once I put a notch in it. I've got it tacked into place. Ran some tacks in there. So I'm pretty happy with how this is. What I'll do now is I'll take some of the same angle iron, so it's the same thickness. Real quick, I want to show you how I'm cutting this flat or angle iron. I pulled this all the way, put it flush up against it because it was too wide to fit in the clamp. So I used this broken clamp, as you can see, but should work fine. I went ahead and put on the bigger hole saw bit for the bigger tubing, and we'll go ahead and just cut this out, and then we'll be able to trim it down to length. And I've got another one right here. I think this is going to be the last video real quickly for tonight, at least. But this is how it is looking. Right, like that. These will be welded up, and then I will have a backing plate running behind the back to box it. Okay, so last night I stayed out here probably till 3 a.m. And got a lot of progress done on this, but I ran out of weld wire, and I have another spool. I just did not want to re-spool it last night at 3 a.m. So this is what we're looking at here. I'm pretty proud of my welds. They've come a long way. You can see right there. Not bad, not bad. But I still need to weld out the bottom, down the sides, around the top. But other than that, this trans mount is finished. Now I do need to weld the tabs that hold the bushings into place on the frame itself. Got it all welded up. The tabs all welded up. And just like that, guys, we have this welded up, I think, where I want it. Pretty happy with how it turned out. I'll show you guys the difference. This was the one that was on there. Super heavy. Way just really heavy, and actually not as sturdy as this right here. So this is about half the weight, but it is much more sturdy, much more beefier than that one will ever be. So I think it's time now. We'll throw this in and we'll see how it does. Alright guys, we got it on. I am going to lock tight these bolts here. I forgot to do it. And here you have it, guys. Got everything tight, secure. Over to that side, tight. You can see our clearance here for the drive shaft. If I can get out of the light. Yeah, you can see the clearance here. Plenty of room. And plenty sturdy. Clean this up a little bit. Then we'll take it for a drive. I could not be more happy with how this turned out. And the old 24 valve P pump is back kicking better than ever. But thank you guys for watching. As always, keep grinding. Peace.